The stars were cold and distant, tiny pinpricks of light against the vast darkness. Captain Mira Reyes stood on the observation deck of the UECV Valor, her gaze fixed on the endless void beyond the reinforced glass. The flagship of the United Earth Coalition cut silently through space, patrolling the outer reaches of the Kuiper Belt. It was the year 2374, and humanity had spread throughout the solar system, establishing colonies and outposts, reaching toward the stars with tentative fingers. "Captain," a voice called from behind her. "The latest reports from Tau Prime Colony." Mira turned to face Lieutenant Samira Lee, her communications officer. The young woman's features were composed, professional, but Mira had served with her long enough to detect the underlying tension. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Anything concerning?" "No, ma'am. Standard updates. Agricultural output is up 15% from last quarter. The terraforming of the southern continent is proceeding ahead of schedule." Mira nodded, accepting the report with a small smile. "Good. That's good news." She turned back to the viewport, her reflection superimposed over the stars. At 42, the responsibilities of command had etched fine lines around her eyes and streaked silver through her dark hair. The Valor represented everything humanity had achieved: unity after centuries of conflict, cooperation across planetary boundaries. But that unity remained fragile, stretched thin across the vast distances of space. "Captain, Admiral Chen is requesting a status update," Lieutenant Lee said, her voice pulling Mira from her thoughts. "Tell him we're maintaining standard patrol patterns. No anomalies detected." Mira paused. "And remind him that we're due for crew rotation in 3 weeks. My people need shore leave." "Yes, Captain." As Lieutenant Lee returned to her station, Mira made her way to the bridge. The Valor's command center hummed with activity, officers attending to their stations with practiced efficiency. Commander Tariq Al-Suna, her executive officer and tactical specialist, straightened as she entered. "Captain on the bridge," he announced, and the crew acknowledged her presence with respectful nods. "Status report, Commander," Mira said, settling into her command chair. "All systems nominal. Captain, we've completed our sweep of Sector 7. No unusual activity." Tariq handed her a data pad. "Though we've picked up increased chatter from Earth. The pro-expansionist faction is pushing for accelerated colonization beyond Alpha Centauri." Mira frowned. "The isolationists won't like that." "No, they won't." Tariq's dark eyes reflected concern. "The coalition is holding, but tensions are rising." Before Mira could respond, Lieutenant Lee's voice cut through the ambient noise of the bridge. "Captain, incoming transmission from Alpha Centauri. Emergency channel." Mira straightened. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life, but instead of the expected face of a colony official, it showed only static, punctuated by bursts of distorted audio. "Massive fleet, unknown configuration, weapons powering." "Boost the signal," Mira ordered, rising from her chair. "Trying, Captain," Lieutenant Lee replied, her fingers flying over her console. "There's interference. Wait, I'm receiving a broad-spectrum transmission. It's not human in origin." The bridge fell silent as Lieutenant Lee isolated the signal. A single message played through the speakers, the words flat, emotionless, and undeniably alien. "Flee or perish." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the emergency channels erupted with distress calls. "Captain," Lieutenant Lee's voice was strained. "Tau Prime Colony reports multiple unknown vessels in orbit. They're firing on the settlement." "Red alert," Mira commanded. "Battle stations, navigation, set course for Alpha Centauri, maximum speed." The Valor's warning klaxons blared as the crew rushed to their combat positions. Mira turned to Tariq. "Contact Earth Command. Inform them we have first contact with a hostile alien force." "Yes, "Captain," Turek replied, his expression grim. The view screen flickered again, now showing a real-time feed from Tau Prime's orbital defense satellites. What Mira saw froze the blood in her veins. Dozens of massive ships, their design utterly alien, organic curves melded with crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them, hung in orbit around the colony world. As she watched, lances of violet energy stabbed downward from the vessels, turning the surface of Tau Prime into a sea of fire. "My God," someone whispered. Within minutes, the transmission from Tau Prime went silent. The colony of 8,000 souls, humanity's proudest achievement beyond the solar system, had been annihilated. The Valor raced toward Alpha Centauri, but Mira knew they would arrive too late. This was no longer a rescue mission. It was reconnaissance for what would surely become humanity's first interstellar war. "Lieutenant Lee," she said, her voice steady despite the horror she had just witnessed. "Send a message to all human outposts and vessels. The warning is clear. We are under attack." The bridge crew looked to her, faces pale but determined. Mira met their gazes one by one. "Humanity stands on the edge of extinction, but we will not flee. We will not perish. We will fight in the cold darkness of space." The UECV Valor accelerated toward a future suddenly uncertain, carrying the weight of humanity's survival on its armored hull. The emergency session of the Coalition Council convened in the underground chambers beneath Luna City. Holographic displays showed the devastation at Tau Prime and the advancing alien armada. Military personnel and political representatives from Earth and all its colonies sat in tense silence as Admiral Mira Reyes, promoted in the wake of the attack, presented her findings. "The alien force has destroyed Tau Prime and 3 smaller outposts," she reported, her uniform crisp despite having gone without sleep for 48 hours. "They've established a beachhead in the Alpha Centauri system and appear to be consolidating their position before advancing further." Governor Eliza Durant of Mars Colony rose, her face ashen. "How many ships are we facing, Admiral?" "At last count, 87 capital ships and approximately 300 support vessels." Mira's voice was clinically detached, masking the despair that threatened to overwhelm her. "Their technology is significantly advanced compared to our own." "Then we should evacuate," said Representative Joe from the Lunar Council. "Abandon the outer colonies and concentrate our defenses at Earth." Murmurs of both agreement and protest rippled through the chamber. "And go where?" Mira countered. "We have no evidence that these aliens will stop at the solar system. Their message was clear: flee or perish, but where can humanity flee that they cannot follow?" The chamber erupted in argument. Some council members advocated immediate evacuation of all colonies beyond Mars. Others insisted on a full military response. The debate grew heated, voices rising as fear gave way to anger. "Enough!" The voice that cut through the chaos belonged to Dr. Lena Ko, head of the Coalition's Xenotechnology Division. The diminutive scientist stood, her severe expression silencing the politicians. "We cannot make decisions based on fear or pride. We need information, Admiral Reyes. What do we know about their capabilities?" Mira nodded to the scientist, grateful for her focus. "Their weapons are energy-based, likely utilizing some form of quantum disruption technology. Their ships are protected by shields that our weapons cannot penetrate. However," she paused, bringing up a new holographic display. Reconnaissance drones captured this footage of a smaller engagement near Proxima Centauri. The display showed a skirmish between alien vessels and a human mining platform that had attempted to escape. The platform's defenses, rudimentary as they were, managed to land a single hit on an alien fighter when its shields momentarily flickered. "Their shielding technology isn't perfect," Mira continued. "There appear to be phase intervals when the shields cycle. It's a fraction of a second, but it exists. If we can exploit that weakness, we might have a chance." Dr. Ko studied the footage, her mind clearly racing. I'll need all the data you've collected on their shield frequencies. My team might be able to develop something to disrupt their cycle. Representative Joe scoffed. You expect us to pin humanity's survival on a technological Hail Mary? We should be preparing evacuation ships, not planning a suicidal defense. And I say we strike now. General Okonkwo of the Earth Defense Force countered. While they're still consolidating, hit them with everything we have. To what end, General? Mira's voice cut through the renewed argument. Our current weapons can barely scratch their smallest vessels. A full frontal assault would be a massacre. The council chamber fell silent again as Mira brought up a strategic projection. I propose a three-pronged approach. First, we evacuate non-essential personnel from outer colonies to fortified positions at Mars and Earth. Second, we retrofit every available ship with whatever weapons we can muster to create a defense fleet. And third, she nodded to Dr. Ko, we pour resources into developing countermeasures against their technology. And if all that fails? Governor Durant asked quietly. Mira met her gaze steadily. Then we make them pay such a price for our extinction that they'll remember humanity for 1,000 years. After hours of debate, the council approved Mira's plan. Resources were allocated, commands assigned. As the meeting adjourned, Commander Tariq al-Suna approached Mira in the corridor outside. Admiral, he said with a nod that couldn't quite hide his concern. The Valor is prepped and ready for your inspection. Thank you, Commander. Mira fell into step beside him. I've recommended you for a field promotion to captain. You'll be taking command of the Valor. Tariq stopped short. With respect, Admiral, I assumed you would maintain command of the flagship. I'll be coordinating the defense fleet from Lunar Command. The Valor needs a captain who can be in the field. She placed a hand on his shoulder. There's no one I trust more for the job. Tariq, I won't let you down, he promised. I know. Mira's expression softened momentarily before her professional mask returned. Now, I need you to assemble a recon team. We need more data on those shield fluctuations, and we need it yesterday. As Tariq departed to carry out his orders, Mira found herself alone in the corridor. For just a moment, she allowed her shoulders to slump, the weight of billions of lives pressing down on her. Then she straightened, squaring her shoulders against the burden of command. There would be time for doubt later, if humanity survived. Ika. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of frantic activity. Across the solar system, humanity mobilized for war. Cargo freighters were retrofitted with hastily manufactured weapons systems. Research stations were repurposed into artillery platforms. Civilian vessels ferried refugees inward toward Earth, while military ships pushed outward, establishing a defensive perimeter. On Mars' orbital ring, Dr. Lena Ko worked tirelessly with her team, analyzing the data from Commander al-Suna's reconnaissance missions. The Valor had managed to penetrate the edges of alien-controlled space, capturing valuable sensor readings at great risk. The shield modulation is the key, Lena muttered, studying the holographic representation of the alien technology. Her lab was cluttered with equipment, and her team of scientists worked around the clock, fueled by caffeine and fear. It's not random. There's a pattern to the fluctuations. We've tried matching the frequency, said her assistant, Kumar, but it adapts too quickly. By the time our weapons tune to the right phase, the shields have already compensated. Lena paced the lab, her mind racing. We're thinking about this wrong. We don't need to match their frequency. We need to disrupt it entirely. She stopped suddenly, eyes widening. What if we created a localized EMP burst, calibrated specifically to their shield frequency? An EMP would affect our systems too, Kumar pointed out. Not if we made it directional, like a harpoon. Lena's fingers flew over her console, bringing up design schematics. a projectile that embeds itself in their hull during a shield fluctuation, then emits a concentrated electromagnetic pulse directly into their shield generators. Kuma leaned forward, excitement breaking through his exhaustion. That could work. But we'd need to get close, really close. Then that's what we'll do, Lena said with grim determination. Get me Admiral Reyes. We have a weapon. While Dr. Koh's team developed their EMP harpoon, the alien armada, now identified as the Zeridian Empire by captured communication fragments, continued its advance. Smaller outposts fell. The colony on Europa was evacuated just hours before Zeridian ships reduced it to rubble. Humanity retreated, regrouped, and prepared. On the bridge of the Valor, now serving as the vanguard of humanity's hastily assembled defense fleet, Captain Tariq al-Sunna received word of Dr. Koh's breakthrough. The prototypes are ready for deployment, Admiral Reyes informed him via holographic communication. But they'll need to be placed manually. The delivery system requires precision that automated drones can't provide. Understood, Admiral, Tariq replied. We'll begin training boarding teams immediately. One more thing. Captain, our intelligence division has identified the Zeridian command ship. A new hologram appeared, showing a massive vessel unlike the others. Where most Zeridian ships resembled elongated arrowheads, this one was larger, more ornate, with crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. This is the Warlock-class dreadnought Inexorable. Intelligence suggests it's commanded by Admiral Zelthar, the architect of this invasion. Tariq studied the image. Their command and control center? We believe so. If we could disable it, even temporarily, it would give us breathing room. Tariq finished. Consider it done, Admiral. As the communication ended, Lieutenant Samira Lee approached. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's unusual. Unusual how, Lieutenant? It appears to be a Zeridian communication, but it's being broadcast on frequencies they've never used before, almost as if it's meant for us to intercept, Tariq said, his expression hardening. Put it through, but maintain communication security protocols. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and a voice spoke, not the flat, emotionless tone of previous Zeridian broadcasts, but something more nuanced, almost contemplative. Humans of soul, the voice said in accented but understandable English. I am Admiral Zelthar of the Zeridian Armada. Your resistance, while futile, has been unexpected. The Empire's doctrine of primitive clearance demands your eradication, yet you continue to defy the inevitable. This is not courage. It is merely postponement of the conclusion. Lay down your weapons. Accept your extinction with dignity. Your species has no place in the galactic order we have established. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. He's trying to demoralize us, Lieutenant Lee said finally. No, Tariq replied, his voice thoughtful. He's trying to understand us. He expected us to flee or surrender immediately. Our resistance has made him curious. A cold smile touched his lips. And curiosity can be exploited. Navigation, set course for the Mars defensive ring. It's time to show Admiral Zelthar just how unexpected humans can be. Aboard the Zeridian dreadnought, Inexorable. Admiral Zelthar stood before the tactical display, his elongated fingers tracing the patterns of human fleet movements. His form was humanoid but distinctly alien, tall and slender, with iridescent skin that shifted colors with his mood. Currently a deep indigo of concentration, his eyes, large and multifaceted like those of an insect, reflected the holographic display. They consolidate their forces at this artificial ring orbiting the fourth planet, he observed to his second-in-command. Sub-Commander Vex. A predictable strategy for a species facing extinction. Shall we bypass their defenses and proceed directly to their home world? Vex inquired, her skin rippling with the eager violet of anticipated victory. No, Zelthar replied. These humans have displayed unusual tactical adaptability. I wish to understand their capabilities fully before we deliver the final stroke. He manipulated the display, zooming in on the Mars orbital ring. Deploy the third battle group. Let us test their defenses. Vex bowed and departed to relay the orders. Left alone, Zelthar studied the image of the human flagship identified in their intelligence as the Valor, a mere toy compared to the inexorable. Yet it had successfully evaded detection during reconnaissance missions, gathering data on Zeridian forces. Such resourcefulness was irregular. The Empire had cleansed 17 primitive species from their claimed territories, and none had offered such organized resistance. Perhaps, Zelthar mused, these humans warranted more study before their inevitable extinction. The first skirmish at the Mars orbital ring occurred 3 days later. 20 Zeridian vessels engaged the human defenses, expecting to overwhelm them quickly. Instead, they encountered a web of retrofitted weaponry and desperate courage. Mining charges, never designed for combat, were deployed as space mines. Civilian transports executed complex evasive maneuvers that confounded Zeridian targeting systems. And in the chaos, the Valor led a daring strike against a Zeridian cruiser. Though the human weapons could not penetrate the alien shields, they maintained constant fire, forcing the shields to cycle rapidly, and in that moment of vulnerability, a small team boarded the Zeridian vessel. The boarding action lasted less than 15 minutes. The human team suffered heavy casualties but managed to retrieve fragments of Zeridian technology before detonating explosives that crippled the cruiser's propulsion systems. The remaining Zeridian vessels withdrew, regrouping to analyze this unexpected development. On Luna, Admiral Reyes reviewed the after-action report with grim satisfaction. Captain Alsuna's team succeeded, she informed the Coalition Council. The Zeridian technology they recovered has already been delivered to Dr. Ko's team, and more importantly, we've proven that they can be hurt. At what cost? Representative Joe demanded. The casualty reports are exactly what we expected, Mira cut in. This is war. Representative, there will be losses, but for the first time, we've dealt a blow to the enemy. Admiral Reyes is right, Dr. Ko interjected, entering the council chamber with a data pad in hand. And the technology they've recovered is invaluable. We've confirmed our theories about their shield modulation. More importantly, we've identified a vulnerability in their communication systems. She displayed a holographic schematic. The Zeridians use a form of quantum entanglement for ship-to-ship communication. It's instantaneous and normally impossible to intercept, but during shield cycling, there's a moment when the entanglement field is exposed. If we can disrupt it at precisely the right moment, we could isolate their ships from one another. Mira finished, understanding dawning. Cut off their coordination. Exactly, Dr. Ko confirmed. Combined with the EMP harpoon, we could potentially disable and isolate their command ship. The inexorable, Mira said thoughtfully. Zelthar's flagship? Yes. Our analysis suggests it serves as the central hub for their battle coordination. If we could disable it, even temporarily, their fleet would be in disarray, Mira concluded. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. She turned to the council. I'm proposing Operation Guillotine, a concentrated strike against the Zeridian command ship. The council members exchanged glances, hope warring with skepticism. What forces would this operation require? General Okonkwo asked. Everything we can muster, Mira replied honestly. This will be our one chance to turn the tide if we fail. She left the sentence unfinished. She didn't need to complete it. Everyone in the room understood the stakes. After hours of debate, the council approved Operation Guillotine. As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Ko approached Mira privately. Admiral, there's something you should know about the EMP harpoons, she said, her voice low. The targeting system requires manual calibration against the shield frequency. Someone will need to be on site to make the final adjustments before deployment. Mira's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened with understanding. You're saying this is a one-way mission? The calculation and deployment window is too narrow for extraction, Dr. Ko confirmed. I've tried to find another way, but... You've done your part, Doctor. Mira interrupted gently. Now it's time for us to do ours. She straightened her uniform. How many harpoons will be ready for deployment? 12. We've been manufacturing around the clock. Good. Have them delivered to the Valor. Captain Al-Suna will select the boarding teams. Mira paused. And Dr. Ko? Thank you. Whatever happens next, humanity will not go quietly into the night because of your work. As Dr. Ko departed, Mira remained in the empty council chamber, the weight of the decisions she had made pressing down on her. 12 harpoons, 12 volunteers who would not return. And still, their chances remained slim at best. But slim chances were all humanity had left. The next morning, Mira requested a private channel to the Valor. Captain Al-Suna's face appeared on her screen, his expression questioning. Captain, I'm coming aboard, she informed him. I'll be joining Operation Guillotine personally. Tariq's surprise was evident. Admiral, with respect, your place is at command headquarters. The operation needs every experienced officer we have. Mira cut in. And I won't ask others to volunteer for a mission I wouldn't undertake myself. Her tone softened slightly. Besides, you'll need someone to calibrate those harpoons who understands the theoretical principles. I've been working with Dr. Ko. After a moment, Tariq nodded. Understood, Admiral. We'll prepare for your arrival. Hours later, Mira stood in the Valor's hangar bay, addressing the assembled boarding teams. 48 men and women, divided into 12 four-person squads, each assigned to deploy one of the EMP harpoons. Their faces were solemn but determined. You all know the mission parameters? Mira began. Once we've engaged the inexorable, each team will launch toward their designated coordinates on the Zeridian hull. You'll have a 60-second window during which their shields will be at their weakest due to our focused barrage. Once aboard, you'll proceed to your deployment points and calibrate the harpoons to match the local shield frequency. She paused, looking at each face in turn. I won't lie to you. This mission is designated Code Black. There is no extraction plan. A murmur ran through the assembled teams, but no one stepped back. Each harpoon must be calibrated manually and defended until it activates. The EMP burst will disable Zeridian systems in your vicinity, creating a cascade failure that will spread throughout their command ship. This will give our fleet the opening it needs to strike a decisive blow. Lieutenant Samira Lee, who had volunteered to lead one of the squads, stepped forward. Time frame for the operation, Admiral. From launch to harpoon activation, approximately 15 minutes. The Zeridians will detect the breaches in their hull and respond accordingly. Mira's expression was grim but resolute. Your job is to buy those 15 minutes at any cost. For Earth, someone said from the back. For humanity, another added. Mira nodded. For all of us, prepare your equipment. We launch in 6 hours. As the teams dispersed, Tariq approached Mira. Which team will you be joining, Admiral? Team 1. We'll be targeting the primary shield generator. She met his gaze steadily. The Valor will need to withdraw once the teams are deployed. Captain, if this works, the EMP will create a window for our fleet to attack, but the Valor must lead that attack. Understood, Tariq replied, though his expression betrayed his conflict. It has been an honor serving with you, Admiral Reyes. The honor has been mine. Captain Al-Suna. Mira extended her hand, and Tariq clasped it firmly. Now, let's make sure humanity has a future to remember us by. The 6 hours passed quickly. Across the solar system, human forces prepared for what might be their final, desperate stand. The alien armada had advanced to Ceres, establishing a forward base in the asteroid belt. It was there that Operation Guillotine would be executed, a last-ditch effort to strike at the heart of the Zeridian command structure before they launched their final assault on Mars and Earth. Aboard the Inexorable, Admiral Zelthar received reports of human fleet movements with growing interest. They massed their forces for a direct confrontation, he observed to Subcommander Vex. Either desperation or strategy motivates this. Our forces are ready, Admiral, Vex reported. The primitive fleet cannot hope to penetrate our shields. Perhaps, Zelthar studied the tactical display, yet they advance with purpose, not blind panic. Curious. His skin shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. Signal all ships, prepare for engagement, but I want the human vessels captured where possible. Their behavioral patterns warrant further study. As the Zeridian fleet formed up around the Inexorable, human vessels approached from multiple vectors. The Valor led the charge, flanked by converted freighters and mining vessels bristling with improvised weaponry. Behind them came the heavier military ships, Earth's defensive fleet, Mars's orbital guardians, all that remained of humanity's martial power. They segment their approach, Zelthar noted with academic interest. The smaller vessels advance while the larger hold position. His multifaceted eyes narrowed. A diversion, perhaps. Scan for anomalies. Before his orders could be carried out, the human fleet opened fire. A barrage of missiles, energy weapons, and mining charges streaked toward the Zeridian formation. Most dissipated harmlessly against the advanced shields, but the sheer volume of fire was unprecedented. They expend their ammunition recklessly, Vex observed with disdain. No, Zelthar replied, his skin darkening as a realization dawned. They're forcing our shields to cycle rapidly. All ships, adjust shield harmonics. But the warning came too late. From the midst of the Valor's escort ships, 12 small craft launched, accelerating rapidly toward the Inexorable. As the massive dreadnought's shields flickered from the sustained barrage, the craft impacted against its hull at precisely timed intervals. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 19, a Zeridian officer reported, mandibles clicking in alarm. Unknown devices attached to our outer hull. Boarding parties, Zelthar hissed, his skin flushing with the angry red of combat. Dispatch security teams to all breach points. I want these humans captured alive if possible. Aboard the Inexorable, Mira led her team through the alien corridors. The interior of the Zeridian vessel was disorienting, curved surfaces that seemed to shift under the light. Materials that felt neither metal nor plastic, but something in between. The atmosphere was breathable but tinged with an odd, sweet scent that made her head swim. Stay focused, she ordered as they navigated toward their objective. Shield generator should be 300 meters ahead. Their intel, hastily compiled from the previous boarding actions, recovered data, proved surprisingly accurate. The Zeridian vessel's layout followed logical patterns once you understood their design philosophy. What humans would place at the core. Zeridians positioned at the extremities. What humans would protect with armor. Zeridians surrounded with active countermeasures. The team encountered resistance almost immediately. Zeridian security forces, tall, chitinous beings wielding energy weapons that fired pulses of coherent light, converged on their position. Mira and her team took cover behind conduit junctions, returning fire with modified pulse rifles. We need to keep moving, Mira shouted over the firefight. Martinez, suppressing fire. Chen, with me. Her second in command, Sergeant Chen, nodded and followed as Mira darted from cover, firing as she ran. A Zeridian soldier fell, its exoskeleton cracking under the impact of concentrated pulse fire. Another turned its weapon toward them, but Martinez's covering fire forced it back into shelter. They progressed through the ship in this manner, fighting, advancing, fighting again. Time ticked away. 8 minutes since breaching the hull. 7 minutes remaining to reach the shield generator. Calibrate the harpoon and activate it. Admiral, Martinez's voice came through her comm unit. We've got problems. Lee's team reports heavy resistance at their objective. Johnson's team has gone silent. Mira ducked as an energy pulse sizzled past her head. Tell all teams to proceed according to plan. We only need one harpoon to succeed, but we'll try for all 12. They pressed on, suffering losses with each encounter. Private Escobar took an energy pulse to the chest that left nothing but charred flesh beneath his armor. Corporal Rodriguez died covering their retreat from a security checkpoint. By the time they reached the shield generator chamber, only Mira, Sergeant Chen, and Martinez remained from the original team of 4. The shield generator itself was a marvel of alien engineering, a crystalline structure the size of a small house, pulsing with energy that made the air around it shimmer. Around its base, console-like structures allowed for control and monitoring. Martinez, secure the entrance, Mira ordered. Chen, help me with the harpoon. They worked quickly, attaching the device to the base of the generator. The harpoon, a 2-meter-long cylinder bristling with sensors and emitters, linked to Mira's tactical pad, displaying a real-time analysis of the shield frequencies. Calibration at 60%, Mira reported, fingers dancing over the controls. The frequencies are shifting faster than we anticipated. Incoming, Martinez shouted from his position. At least a dozen hostiles. Energy pulses slammed into the chamber entrance. Martinez returned fire, but the barrage intensified. I can hold them, he said, determination in his voice. Just finish the job. Mira worked frantically, adjusting parameters as the harpoon gradually aligned with the Zeridian shield frequency. Sergeant Chen provided covering fire as Martinez was forced back from his position. Martinez, fall back to us, Mira ordered. Negative, Admiral, came the strained reply. They'll overrun the position. I'll buy you time. Before she could protest, Martinez detonated a breach charge. Collapsing the corridor entrance, the explosion killed several Zeridian soldiers but fatally wounded Martinez as well. His sacrifice had bought them precious minutes. Calibration at 85%, Mira reported, pushing aside grief to focus on the mission. Chen, watch the secondary entrance. They'll try to flank us. Sergeant Chen nodded grimly, taking up position. How much longer, Admiral? 3 minutes for calibration, 2 minutes for activation sequence. Mira didn't look up from her work. We just need to hold them that long. But time was not on their side. Even as the harpoon reached 90% calibration, Zeridian forces breached the secondary entrance. Chen engaged them, his rifle on full automatic, but the aliens pressed forward relentlessly. Admiral, he shouted over the firefight, we've got a problem. Mira looked up to see Chen fall, an energy pulse having sheared through his left arm. She abandoned the calibration console. Drawing her sidearm and firing at the advancing Zeridians, one fell, then another, but more kept coming. Chen struggled to his feet, clutching his wounded arm. Get back to the harpoon, I'll hold them. Both of us, or neither. Sergeant, Mira replied, continuing to fire. We finish this together. They retreated to the shield generator, using it for cover as they held off the Zeridian forces. The calibration had reached 95%, but the console now sparked from damage sustained in the firefight. It's not going to complete the sequence, Chen said, his face pale from blood loss. Mira assessed their situation with the cold clarity of command. The harpoon required manual calibration to reach 100% alignment with the shifting Zeridian frequencies. Without that perfect alignment, the EMP burst would fail to propagate through the shield systems. There's one way, she said. reaching for the harpoon's maintenance panel. The calibration sensors are designed to interface with our tactical systems. If I hardwire my tactical pad directly into the harpoon's core, it'll fry the pad and anything connected to it. Chen finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Including you. It's the only way to guarantee alignment. Mira was already connecting cables between her tactical pad and the harpoon's inner circuitry. The EMP will transmit through the connection, but it'll complete the calibration in the process. Admiral, no. That's an order. Sergeant. Mira cut him off. One of us needs to activate the sequence once calibration completes, and you're in no condition to interface with the system. Her expression softened. Tell them we held the line. Before Chen could protest further, the chamber doors blew inward. Zeridian soldiers poured through the breach, weapons raised. Chen turned to face them, firing his rifle one-handed while Mira completed the connections. The tactical pad linked to the harpoon, and immediately Mira felt the device interfacing not just with the pad, but with the neural implants all UEC officers carried. The technology that allowed for enhanced battlefield awareness and communication. Pain lanced through her skull as the harpoon used her own neural network to complete its calibration. 100% alignment, she gasped, the words barely audible over the firefight. Activating. Now. She pressed the final sequence, and the harpoon hummed to life. Energy coursed through it, through the tactical pad, through Mira herself. Her vision whited out with pain, but she held firm, becoming the conduit through which the EMP would transmit. The last thing she saw before consciousness fled was a wave of blue-white energy expanding outward from the harpoon, engulfing Zeridian soldiers and human defenders alike. The shield generator's crystalline structure cracked, then shattered, raining fragments across the chamber floor. Then darkness claimed her. Across the inexorable. Systems failed, lights flickered and died, gravity fluctuated wildly. The EMP cascade had exceeded all expectations, propagating through the quantum-entangled communication networks to affect not just the dreadnought, but the vessels linked to it. On the bridge, Admiral Zelthar gripped his command podium as the ship shuddered around him. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the confused faces of his crew. "Status report," he demanded. "Shield generators offline," a technician reported, mandibles clicking in distress. "Weapon systems non-responsive, quantum communication network compromised." How? Zelthar's skin had paled to an ashen gray of shock. How could primitives achieve this? Before anyone could respond, the tactical display, one of the few systems still functioning, showed the human fleet advancing. With the Zeridian shields down, their weapons, primitive though they might be, could now inflict real damage. "All power to engines," Zelthar ordered. "Disengage from the human fleet." "Admiral, we cannot abandon the battle group." Subcommander Vex protested. "We are not abandoning them. We are preserving the flagship until systems can be restored." Zelthar's skin rippled with the deep purple of calculated retreat. "The humans have proven more problematic than anticipated. We must reassess our approach to their extinction." As the crippled inexorable limped away from the battle, the human fleet fell upon the disoriented Zeridian vessels. Without coordinated shield harmonics or tactical direction from the flagship, the alien ships were vulnerable. The battle was fierce but no longer one-sided. Aboard the Valor, Captain Tariq al-Sunna directed the assault, his expression a mask of grim determination. Lieutenant Lee's voice broke through the tactical chatter on the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving telemetry from Team 1's harpoon. It was successfully deployed and activated." "And the team?" Tariq asked, though he already knew the answer. Lee's silence was confirmation enough. Tariq allowed himself one moment of grief before refocusing on the battle. "The Admiral bought us this chance," he said, addressing the bridge crew. "We will not waste it. All vessels, concentrate fires on the disabled Zeridian cruisers." Prevent them from restoring shield harmonics at all costs. The Battle of Ceres Outpost, as it would come to be known, marked the first human victory against the Zeridian Empire. Though the cost was devastating, nearly 40% of the human fleet destroyed or disabled, and all 12 boarding teams lost, the outcome was undeniable. The Zeridian advance had been halted. The Inexorable and its escort ships retreated beyond Neptune, buying humanity precious time. In the aftermath, Coalition scientists swarmed over the captured Zeridian vessels, extracting every scrap of technology and information they could. The knowledge gained would prove invaluable in the months to come. 6 weeks after the battle, Captain Tariq al-Suna stood before the Coalition Council, now promoted to Admiral following Mira Reyes's sacrifice. His uniform bore the newly created Medal of Terran Valor, the highest honor the Coalition could bestow. "The Zeridian fleet has withdrawn to the outer reaches of our solar system," he reported. "They appear to be regrouping and repairing their vessels. Our estimates suggest we have 3 to 6 months before they will be ready to launch another offensive." "And what of our own preparations, Admiral?" Governor Durant asked. "Dr. Koh's team has reverse-engineered components of the Zeridian shield technology. We've begun retrofitting our vessels with prototype shields based on their design." Tariq activated a holographic display showing a new class of ship under construction in Earth orbit. "And we've accelerated production of our own harpoon delivery systems, ones that don't require manual calibration or sacrifice." Representative Joe, once the most vocal advocate for evacuation, now leaned forward with interest. "You believe we can withstand a second Zeridian assault?" "I believe we can do more than withstand it," Tariq replied. "The Zeridians expected us to flee or perish. Instead, we bloodied their nose. Their tactics suggest they've never encountered sustained resistance from a primitive species before. That gives us an advantage, the advantage of being underestimated." He manipulated the display, showing tactical projections. "We won't just defend next time, we'll take the fight to them." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Amid the debate, Dr. Lena Koh approached Tariq quietly. "I've completed the analysis of the Zeridian communication logs we recovered," she said, her voice low. "There's something you should know, Admiral." Tariq followed her to a private alcove where she activated a secure data pad. "The Zeridians refer to themselves as the First Wave," she explained. "Initial translation was imprecise, but I'm now certain this invasion force is just a vanguard, a test of our defenses before the main Imperial fleet arrives." Tariq absorbed this news, his expression hardening. "How long?" "Based on the communication protocols and scheduled transmissions, I estimate 18 months, perhaps 2 years before they receive word of this fleet's setback and dispatch reinforcements. Then we have 18 months to prepare." Tariq's determination was unwavering. "Doctor, I need you to accelerate the shield adaptation project, and I want a team working on their FTL technology. If we can't beat them here, we need the option to take the fight elsewhere." Dr. Koh nodded. "I'll reassign resources immediately." She hesitated, then added, "Admiral Reyes would be proud of what you've accomplished." "What we've all accomplished," Tariq corrected gently. "This is just the beginning, Doctor. The real war is yet to come." 6 months after the Battle of Ceres Outpost, a memorial service was held on Luna for those who had fallen. Names were read, honors bestowed posthumously. Admiral Mira Reyes's name headed the list, her sacrifice credited with turning the tide of humanity's first interstellar war. Following the service, Admiral Tariq al-Suna stood at the viewport in what had once been Mira's office. Gazing out at the stars, Earth hung in the blackness, a blue jewel still untouched by the conflict that raged at the edges of its solar system. A chime announced Lieutenant Samira Lee's arrival. Now Captain Lee. She commanded her own vessel in the expanded human fleet. "The Defense Council is assembled, Admiral," she reported. "They're waiting for your assessment." Tarek nodded, turning from the viewport. "Tell them I'll be there shortly." As Lee departed, Tarek gathered the data pads containing his latest strategic projections. The human fleet had grown, incorporating salvage Zeridian technology with their own innovations. The harpoon weapons had been refined, automated. New defensive platforms ringed the inner planets. And beyond Neptune, the Zeridian fleet watched and waited, growing stronger as well. This was merely a pause in the conflict, a moment to breathe, to rebuild, to prepare. The Empire would return, and when it did, humanity would face an even greater test. But they would not face it unprepared. Tarek's gaze returned to Earth one last time before he headed to the council chamber. "We held the line, Mira," he murmured, "and we'll hold it again. In the cold darkness of space, beyond the orbit of Neptune, the lights of the Zeridian fleet glimmered like distant stars, and aboard the repaired Inexorable, Admiral Zelthar studied the tactical projections of the human defenses with newfound respect. "They are more resilient than anticipated," he observed to Subcommander Vex. "Perhaps worthy of greater consideration than our standard primitive clearance protocols." "The Imperial Council will not accept failure," Vex cautioned, her skin rippling with concern. When the main fleet arrives, they will find an enemy prepared and determined." Zelthar interrupted. "An enemy that refused our warning to flee, that chose instead to stand and fight against overwhelming odds." His multifaceted eyes reflected the starlight. "An enemy, perhaps, worthy of conversation before extinction." As the Zeridian dreadnought hung in the darkness, a small human vessel detached from the defensive perimeter and accelerated toward it. Not a warship, but an ambassadorial craft, bearing a message. Coexistence or war. The choice was now the Empire's to make. For humanity had proven what the Zeridians thought impossible, that a primitive species could stand against the might of the Empire and survive. And in that survival lay the seeds of a new understanding between the stars, forged in the crucible of humanity's first and most desperate interstellar war. The warning had been clear: flee or perish. Humanity's answer was clearer still: we stand, we fight, we endure. And in the vast darkness between the stars, that answer echoed like a challenge to the universe itself.